All right, good morning, everyone. I'm here at Barnstable Municipal Airport in the lovely conference room, and I have a group of people around me. We're going to talk a little bit about the Wings of Freedom Tour, and if we could just go around the table maybe and introduce yourselves, that would be great. We can start over here.
John Criffin, Airport Commissioner.
Mary Smith, Airport Commissioner.
I'm Hunter Cheney, Director of Marketing for the Collings Foundation.
Wonderful. And Hunter, I think I'll start with you. Talk to me a little bit about the Wings of Freedom Tour. Obviously, this is really cool. You have some vintage aircraft that are actually still in working order, flying all around, and they're coming here to the airport in September. Talk to me about the organization.
The Collings Foundation is one of the United States' most unique educational nonprofit foundations. Our goal, the objective to the foundation, since we were founded back in 1979, was to enable particularly Americans to learn more about our history and heritage through direct participation. The challenge for educators across the board, particularly when it comes to the realm of history education, is how do you engage people in history? How do you convey history so people better understand it and remember it? Because of course the saying is that if we forget our history, we're more or less condemned to repeat it.
Yes, my history professor in college was a big fan of that
saying. And that's just it, is that if we know our history, we're better suited, we're better informed to make wiser decisions that affect our future. So way back, we started with living history events more around turn of the century. So we're talking like New England events, ice cutting festivals, sleigh rides, car rallies. It came to the point where Bob Collings, the founder, wanted to find a way to best educate people about World War II history and to honor our World War II veterans. Hence the creation of this National Wings of Freedom Tour. This national tour features two fully restored heavy bombers from World War II, probably the most iconic aircraft of the heavy bombers of the war. The B-17 Flying Fortress. Now, a lot of people might know this plane through, you remember the old films like 12 O'Clock High?
Sure.
Memphis Belle.
Yep, Memphis Belle, absolutely.
So this is kind of the movie star heavy bomber. And so a lot of people know this plane. And this is one of 7 in flying condition in the United States. With these aircraft, or with the B-17, we also have the B-24 Liberator. This is not as well known of a heavy bomber as the B-17, but it's the most mass-produced aircraft in American history. So I look at it as the kind of the icon of industrial might during the war. This is one of the primary icons of how we were able to win World War II, really was through ingenuity and industrial might. And this is the last one of its type still flying in the world.
And that's pretty impressive. And really,
Yeah.
you talk about bringing history and how do you make it engaging, and what better way to do that than actually see these planes restored actually were participating in World War II. These are the real thing. And
Yeah.
they're here. People can look at them, they can walk on them, and they can even go for a flight in them, from what I understand as well, if you've got some bucks.
I call it the flycatcher effect. So everyone gets on board the aircraft. Keep in mind, this is straight out of 1944. There's nothing particularly comfortable about these
No way.
aircraft. This is a real thing. And so we do the pre-flight briefing, everyone gets on board, plane starts up, and you taxi out, and as soon as the engines power up, there's not a closed mouth in the entire aircraft. It is such an unusual experience. It is so fantastic. So what ends up happening is that then we've planted that seed. We want, particularly with the younger generations, we want to engage them in a way that they would never be able to experience before. The combination of that and then hearing stories from our local World War II veterans makes a lasting impression on people. And then at that point, particularly the younger kids, they go back and they want to learn more. And then we planted that seed of interest. I look at it as probably the most marvelous edutainment when it comes to World War II history. And so we're very much looking forward to bringing this national tour into Hyannis again this year.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what it means to have these planes and this display here at Barnstable Municipal Airport. I know it's been here before. I've seen it before. It's just awesome. So talk to me, from the commissioner's point of view, as why it's important to have that here at the airport.
Our newest commissioner. Go ahead.
As Hunter said, bringing history around and giving children, especially school children, hands-on experience of being able to see them, touch them, hear the stories. And for me, I mean, I've been involved for a few years now with this. When you're here and you see the veterans that come out, and they have their children and their grandchildren with them, and they get the just raw emotion that comes out from them, because I've heard somebody say, it's been 67 years since I saw this airplane, never thought I'd see it again. That really gets to you, and they're just explaining everything, where they sat, what their job was, what their responsibilities were on the aircraft, and they're telling their children and grandchildren, and it's just awe-inspiring. It really is. It just is an awesome experience, and just for that alone even. Just to see that is incredible.
Absolutely.
Well, it's great for us in this airport. This airport's got a long history, and part of that history was it was the United States Navy training base. And George H.W. Bush trained here to fly TBMs. And I know in the Collings Foundation collection, you've got a TBM.
We do, yeah.
And I know you've got a T-6 Mosquito,
Yes,
which
that's
I
right.
sold Bob Collings. That was my airplane. But this is a great thing. I've had a long association with Bob and Caroline. I've known them since, late 70s into the 80s. I've got the good fortune way back in the 80s of getting 20 minutes of log time in the left seat of the B-17, so I've flown the thing. I've got some pictures of other friends' airplanes from the old New England Escadrille. I've got a picture of Phil Cooper's old Beech 18, and I'm in the waist gun, and I've got him right in the gun sights of the 50 cal on the starboard side.
Yeah.
But it's so good for this airport, and it's so good for the community, and you've covered all the aviation history stuff. You're talking about the mighty 8th Air Force. This was the bomber group, and fighters, the Associated Fighters, and I know you got an early one of the P-51, is it a Bravo?
Charlie.
Charlie coming in. The 8th Air Force suffered the highest percentage casualty rate of any unit in World War II. I mean, it was brutal. It was, the Memphis Belle was a big deal because, the idea is if you could fly 25 and survive 25 successful missions, you basically got to go home. And the Memphis Belle was the first of relatively few that made it and got the 25. But the first time I walked aboard that 17, it's the mighty Flying Fortress. And I walked into that thing and I thought, this is it? This is what these guys went up in by today's standards?
Yeah.
It's an aluminum tube.
Yeah.
It was cold, it was uninsulated. They flew at high altitudes with just, sheepskins and masks?
Yeah.
Electric hand warmers, and it was a very, very tough environment. And, the 24 had a bigger load, longer range. It was more, it was a newer technology bomber than the 17. And to think that there's only one left.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
This is it. It's going to be here. And,
Yeah.
and the 51, the later versions of the 51, you get into the guys that protected the bombers, and that included I think it was the 99th and the 332nd, which was the Tuskegee Airmen, that did an awful lot of escort work, and, they flew mostly Mustangs, and they never lost a bomber to a German fighter that they were escorting. It's tremendous history.
It's a particularly significant fighter. The P-51 Mustang was the first fighter aircraft that could follow these heavy bombers all the way to a target and back. So you can imagine that when a bomber crew would see these planes flying formation, they knew they were safe from attacking fighters. This is kind of a unique C-model Mustang. Most Mustangs are single-seaters, and that's the way they were in World War II. This is the world's only C-model Mustang that has a full dual cockpit. So it kind of follows that same philosophy that we have with the bombers, where you are literally getting a tactile history lesson. So people have the opportunity to fly this fighter aircraft. Pilots, non-pilots alike, it's flight training. And it is an absolutely beautiful aircraft to fly. And so that will be coming in with the bombers when we land. And I did a count. I think our Hyannis is going to be close to our 2,683rd stop.
Wow.
Since we started the tour 23 years ago.
So when will the planes be coming to Barnstable Municipal Airport? I think that anyone watching right now is got to be excited about these
Yeah.
planes coming here and got to be coming down to see them. So when are they going to be here, and how can people come and see these planes?
So we're going to be landing on, what is it, September 12th. Yeah, and touching down about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And we'll be here up until Friday around 12 noon. So once we land, we'll have the planes open for tours from 2 until 5 on Wednesday, the 12th, and around 9:30 up until 5 on Thursday, and then 9:30 until noon on Friday. And then the times just before and after that is when we do the bomber flights. And throughout the day on availability, we'll do our flight training in the Mustang. So the walkthrough tours and the flying, it's important to note, and this is kind of how we're able to do this year after year. When people come to pay the $12 or $6 or the $425 and up for the Mustang, I don't want to mention the cost of the Mustang, but
It's a little pricey.
It's a little expensive. That cost goes right back into the operational cost of the aircraft. To move the aircraft on average, from one stop to the next, for all three aircraft, costs on average about $35,000.
I would imagine they're not fuel-efficient vehicles.
It's not a particularly cost-effective means of a living history program, but it's
certainly amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of, you have to balance, cost effectiveness versus really the impact of having these airplanes and knowing that they are flying from one destination to the other. They're fully restored, as you mentioned. They are in working order. You can see them. It's not like they're put in a trailer and taken apart and put together. This is actual, real living history.
this is, you can't get any more
This
real.
is something that you should consider too, is when they arrive, they usually do a few
Flybys,
formation
yeah.
orbits around the town and the general area. And the sound of these engines is something that you just don't hear anymore. On the
It's very
bombers, you've got
unique.
the great big radials, big radial engines. And on the P-51, you've got the liquid-cooled Allison, the V-12, and,
Yeah.
I mean, nothing that you hear today sounds like this. I mean, it's really neat.
We'll have to be out there stalking you guys with our video cameras when the planes do touch down. We'd
Most
love to
definitely.
be able to see that. So it's starting September 12th, as you said. That's when the planes come. And if people want more information, is it collingsfoundation.org?
collingsfoundation.org. Our offices are actually here in Massachusetts. This is where we're based.
Wonderful.
And we have a phone number, 800-568-8924, collingsfoundation.org. And this is a unique opportunity. I think it's been, 3 years now?
Oh, it's been a few now.
Yeah,
I've
since
lost
we've been
track.
in last. And the airport now is in beautiful shape, and we're very much looking forward to our stay.
Great.
We're
If you
thrilled to have you
haven't,
come.
if you haven't had a chance to visit the Collings Foundation farm out in Stowe, Massachusetts, it's something that is well worth seeing. It's
I'm
just
sure.
It's an incredibly unique and wonderful place.
Especially in October, they have, on Columbus Day weekend.
Yeah,
uh,
we have a
World War II
reenactment.
reenactment, and that is
Yeah.
incredible.
It's
exciting.
singularly unique.
It really is.
Well, we'll definitely have to try and get out there for that, but certainly we'll be back here at the airport in September to see the Wings of Freedom tour. And Hunter and both of you, thank you so much for joining me today.
On
You're
behalf
welcome.
of the
Pleasure.
commission and everybody
Great,
here,
thank
we
you.
welcome you to our
Absolutely.
airport.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm Sarah Colvin.